Hello and welcome to FPL Have a Beer, where I invite you to have a beer with me while I chat FPL. Please like to help get the video out there, and at the time of recording I'm slowly getting up towards 800 subscribers, and it would mean the world to me if I could get the channel up to 800 subscribers before it turns 6 months old in a week or so. So if you could subscribe, that would mean the world to me. Thank you so much if you do this. Please, if you want to support the channel even further, check out channel memberships. Members get early access to anything I record, and it only costs 99p a month. So welcome to another interview in the Meet the FPL Manager, Meet the Content Creator interview series, where I ask one of our lovely FPL content creators onto the channel to talk about their experiences of FPL and content creation, their thoughts on FPL and mental health, and we generally have a chat about how the season's going towards the end. So for the latest entry in the series, we have the pleasure of being joined by one half of my favourite FPL YouTube podcasts, Baker of Above Average FPL. Baker, it's great to have you on the channel, mate. I'm a massive fan of you guys, yourself and Adam, of course. Adam only came on fairly recently, about a month ago. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. I thought you said the black box was your favourite.
I said one of my favourites there.
All right.
I'm very.
All right.
My semantics are very clever. You're up there. You're up there. You're up there with anyone else. I did say that to Adam, to be fair, as well. I'm quite
yeah, I will take it. One of the favourites. That'll do. Yeah, I'm good. It's obviously refreshed. It's 2 weeks off in this, so we're recording this just before the FA Cup. Yeah, right, it's one of the things about this one is like by the time it turns around, it's like, if you ask me, I'm not. I thought about this earlier because I've watched a bit. I was like, is he going to jinx me if I say like my season's going okay? Well, by the time this comes out, it's definitely going to be rubbish.
Well, it could be the catalyst that sees.
Maybe.
Sees you go. It's been a really weird international break, isn't it? So we're recording this like right at the end of March, before the FA Cup games. And because it's one of them ones, it's not just that it's a 2.5 week break, but you couldn't really think about FPL because it's the thing. So it's literally like a 2 week thought break, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It's so weird that we've been telling ourselves that for 2 weeks that it's completely paralysed, you can't do anything. And then I sort of looked at the fixtures for this weekend for the FA Cup. I was like, wow, we're so paralysed in there's 4 games, and one of them's Villa against Preston North End.
Who's Spurs got in the way? Are you still in it?
No, of course we're not in it.
Who did you get?
We're done. No. So it's Palace Fulham's the big one really, which is midday tomorrow. So by about 3 o'clock tomorrow, Twitter will be all over it.
Yeah. So I know you said you've watched a few of these, mate. So you usually start off by just asking a few general things. I joked beforehand, before we started filming, that I didn't have to redo my script here that much from Adam, because as well as doing the same podcast, you support the same team as well, don't you?
We do.
Yeah, so basic things like, where did you grow up? Who do you support? What are your first memories of football? Things like
that. So I'm from Kent. Kent's always a weird place where it's one of the only places I think where people say the county rather than where they were from. But,
Canterbury's in Kent, is that right?
Yeah. So, that's where I was born. Born in Canterbury. Okay. I live nearby a place called Faversham. I lived literally about a stone's throw from Bob Geldof growing up, which is the weird ones. And I'm old. Like I'm old, so I've got to be one of the oldest guys in the community. I'm 46 now.
Oh well, you're older than me. Yeah, I was interviewing.
Yeah, I'm old.
I interviewed James from Planet FPL a couple of days ago, and he was saying he's old, but he's 2 years younger than me. I was like,
no, yeah, I'm official old, like in that sense. So
you look well. You look well for it. I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, easy paper round. Lived in Kent for all my early life, in terms of like my mum and dad still live in the same house they lived in when I was a kid type stuff. And stuff. Although I've been around a fair bit, I've always ended up back down in Kent. I live down in Kent now. I live as far southeast as a person could be, down in Folkestone. I can see France if I walk about 100 yards down the road.
That's old shipping town, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, well, like ships going in and out and the port and that.
Yeah. And the harbour and all that stuff's quite a lot of redevelopment at the moment, so that's kind of big deal. Which it's a good place to be. I love living by the sea.
Yeah,
absolutely love living by the sea. Football. It's just so Tottenham, as you know, I'm a Tottenham fan. But it was never really an option. So it's like my sixth great grandfather's great whatever grandfather founded Tottenham.
Founded Tottenham. Wow, I didn't know that.
Pretty much guarantees it's going to be in your family, isn't it?
How did that come about? Do you know the story behind it? I mean, 'cause they would have been like one of the real first clubs, wouldn't they have been?
Yeah, so it was 1882 founded. Reverend John Ripsher was it was like the first president, I think they called it at the time, but founded Tottenham in that sense. And but the name's gone, kind of. There's I think there's a couple of Ripshires that are like dove away, but I don't have any contact with any of them that are around. It was my mother's maiden name. She hasn't got any brothers or anything like that, and then she's now a baker, and so I am. So yeah, don't have anything in terms of it. But my dad had to. My dad was a Man City fan and had to become a Tottenham fan in order to gain my mum's hand in marriage.
So
you would never know.
On your mum's side?
Yeah. It's my mum's side,
Right, got you. Yeah, you're a bit stuck there. You would have, I'm assuming you'd say you'd have gone for them anyway.
I don't know. The thing is, when you're from Kent as well, there's not really a huge amount. Like Gillingham was my local club. Charlton back in, I'm old enough that Charlton were a Kentish club and those days, and then they went to Selhurst Park, so they then become not a London club. They become a London club rather than a Kentish club. Yeah. So yeah, there wasn't a huge amount, and I sort of, when I grew up, all of my mates were Man United fans.
Yeah, it was about people around our age. It is Man United, weren't it?
Yeah. So like my oldest mates from like sort of primary school were Liverpool fans. It was Liverpool or Arsenal, and then it was just a swathe of Man United. So yeah, more of my friends, around there were Liverpool and Arsenal. Liverpool certainly always felt like the biggest rival, I would say. In terms of rivalry between schoolmates and so forth.
Yeah.
I guess that that's just purely because of my age. But yeah, went to Tottenham. First went to Tottenham, I think it was 1988. So that shows how old I was.
Yeah. Who was manager then? Was that before Venables?
Yeah, before Venables.
Yeah.
Or maybe, was it Venables? It might have been Venables,
Yeah, I know he was in charge of the 91 FA Cup win, but I won't say I'm a complete aficionado.
I don't think he was though. But then I don't think he was then. God, my memory feels terrible now that I can't remember. My sort of earliest football memory of Tottenham was actually the 1987 the FA Cup loss to Coventry. Okay. And like my first memory of a goal of thinking, wow, that was something I hadn't seen before, was Keith Houchin scored a diving header, and I was like, what's that? That was like incredible. Like he should have gone with his feet and he went with his head, which we lost that. But that was my first sort of vivid memory of like being with my family, crowded around the telly, watching the football. And then 1988 went in true Tottenham style. We were 1-0 up and conceded in the last minute for 1-0.
To Coventry, the thought of them
eternal disappointment.
Yeah,
you think I'd learn. You'd think I'd learn, but
wasn't there another season they beat Wimbledon? I can't remember. This is before my time, but I remember watching old videos back. Maybe I'm confused. Maybe that was the season.
No, Wimbledon beat Liverpool in '88.
Okay, I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
Favourite Tottenham player?
You'd think I'd go old on it, but it's really Kane or Bale. It really is, I think nothing will ever be more special to me than the last season of Bale. I had a season ticket, went every week, saw it, and just never felt like, oh my God, this is literally the best player the world's ever seen. Like at that time, it genuinely felt that way. And it felt probably more that way because always felt like people didn't necessarily give it the credit at the time.
I think it was because Ronaldo and Messi, I think he was always like pedalled in behind those two, wasn't he? Which, I mean, to be fair, he probably was behind those two, but...
And he was behind those two. But it certainly felt like the best thing I've ever seen. I just remember is like the last game, and he scores like in the basically the last minute against Sunderland, and it was just banger after banger, but it's an unbelievable banger. And I was right behind him, and the whole crowd stood up, and it was just utter pride from everybody of thinking like, this is way too good for a player to be at Tottenham. Like, we want to see you at Real Madrid. We want to see...
Really?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Like, just, this is as good as it gets for being a Spurs fan. Like, we don't have a lot... It's not like you don't really particularly dream of trophies that often when you're a Tottenham fan. So watching someone and seeing it and thinking, we've had this, and I'm really excited to see him go and do it somewhere else, because I know... You just sort of knew at that point that he would go and do special things at Real Madrid. And a lot of time, you know, like to go and see him do what he did in Champions League finals and the like, you were like, just special.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of answer I'd expect. I was really surprised when I asked James. I mean, it will be the interview that came out probably before this one. He said Ledley King, which was a surprising one to me. I mean, he was a great player, but he was injured so much, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was injured so much. But... funny enough, I probably annoy many other Spurs fans that the season I saw Woodgate fit, and genuinely I felt when Woodgate was fit playing for us, I felt Woodgate was even better.
We had him,
and most Spurs fans will hate me for that.
We had him at Newcastle for one season, and he was brilliant.
He just made the game look so easy.
Yeah,
just made it look ridiculous. You know how good he was, but Kane just over the years.
I would say I reckon he could have been even better than Rio Ferdinand if it hadn't have been for all the injuries. I mean,
I have no doubt on both of them, King and Woodgate. But when Woodgate was fit, like it was just
Favorite?
I felt like you could only get Woodgate by watching him in the flesh and seeing just how good he was, like in terms of how easy he made it.
Off the ball stuff and things like that.
Oh.
Yeah. Favourite Spurs memory?
Harry Kane. Harry Kane against Arsenal. There was a game, there was North London derby that I wasn't able to go to when I had a season, and I sold my ticket, and then I was able to go.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, crap, I've sold my ticket. I really want to try and go to this guy. And I managed to get myself a ticket in the northwest corner, which was of the old White Hart Lane, which was the family area of the ground. I'd never been there, never sat in there in my life, and it was the one. There was a header where he scores, and he just gets up so unbelievably early. I think it's on Koscielny.
Was this when he's just like? I mean, is it first season or so? I think I remember it.
No. It was kind of like a "we're now better than you" moment. So you've got the one where Kane scores and he rips his mask off, and that's probably the bit everyone remembers, like the famous goal. But we didn't win that game. But this was a moment where it was just the way he got up for so long in the air, and he heads it and he cushions it back to the far corner, and just so happens to be where I am, that ball came at me and it stayed in the air for just such an unbelievable eternity that everybody was up off their seat and so far forward that the bruise on my shins from leaning into the seat in front of me as we all tried to wait for it to go in was just that was it for me. That was football in a moment. It was just really, really special.
What do you think about this season? Do you think I mean, when I asked James this the other day, I said, will Ange be out by the end of the season? And he said, depending on when it's released, he might be out before the interview's out. Do you reckon he should go?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah. End of the line.
Yeah, I do.
Thing. Cool.
Yeah, I do. I just, there's a lot of things where it's like, I just don't see certain things changing. You know, the amount of injuries we've suffered, I firmly put that on his door. Yeah, there are parts of it where because we're basically the only team that has increased their pressing intensity while the whole world has decreased it over the last 2 years. There's just too much football played nowadays that you can't press like the madman people that were doing a few years back. But he's still trying. And if everybody else stops pressing while you start pressing, guess what? Guess which one blows up first in terms of the players, you know, and that's the bit that I can't really struggle with. But you feel that. So there's been a few times recently where we used to press really, really hard with the fullbacks, and they used to press inside, so they used to invert. Then when we had all the injuries, he started relaxing them. But what that does is it means that he's not getting the optimal way that he likes to play out of the players.
Yeah. He's
just trying to protect them. And actually what it just exposes is that he needs everybody fit. He needs Real Madrid. Like Ange does. If Ange had Real Madrid and he had all the talent in the world and had 3 or 4 players for every position, he could put his tactics in and they would work brilliantly.
I guess he sort of had that at Celtic, because even though he didn't have that, he had the equivalent in the Scottish League, didn't he?
And it can work at times virtually off of freshness. So what you've seen, obviously, at the start of last season, why did it work really well? We were really fresh. It was new, it was fresh. Everyone's running, and then things go pop and it falls apart. And I just, you know, when he actually then is like tries to play in a more controlled way, it actually is even worse.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Is we're now not being the slugfest that we were. So it's just a bit meek.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's just a bit meek.
So when did you first get into fantasy football, mate? Be that FPL or a different version?
Yeah, so I'm old enough to remember the fantasy football show, the Baddiel and Skinner original, like 1994.
Stato,
you know, so I was about so I was like 15 when that came out. And at the same time, obviously, Championship Manager was literally just started, and I was like, wow, I love stats. I love average rate. I guess, you know, we'll probably at some point mention the fact that I love bonus points. Well, I loved average ratings in Championship Manager, and that was just like, oh, God, now what? You can play this game on paper, you know, virtually in a newspaper and all that sort of stuff. So I remember the Telegraph through the fantasy football. I remember at school, there was always like a sun knocking around, and so you'd be like looking at dream teams and, you know, the scores and all that sort of stuff. So then in 98, I went to Australia for a couple of years.
Oh, nice.
Which was fun, yeah. And forgot all about, you know, those type of things like fantasy football and all those things. Came back, did university. I don't think I had any dallying with it at uni. I can't remember. Certainly can't remember any of that sort of stuff. And then I think it would have been, well, I know the app tells me that I was playing FPL in 2007, 2008.
Okay, it's pretty early doors then, FPL.
Yeah, I think so.
Any early memories stand out?
Well, yes, I can remember so many things about, not so much about how I played or like have memories of points I've scored. I just have memories of players that scored that I didn't own, because I was your good old tribal manager.
Those are memories you don't want.
Well, I was the good old tribal manager that didn't have players from certain teams.
Right.
And as I mentioned, because of my age, like all my mates supported Liverpool, so I was like, I'm not having Liverpool players in my team.
So we're talking about here pre-FPL. We're talking about like really early doors.
No. From 2007.
Okay.
For 10 years of playing FPL, I went through season after season with no Liverpool players, no Arsenal players, and no Chelsea players.
Bloody hell.
That was my rules.
That's extreme.
Extreme. So I went that way until from 2007, 2008 through to 2017, 2018. I played FPL.
What was your general rank history like?
Interesting question, that one. So my rank was very tidal in that it was very much driven by how good certain players were and how good certain teams were at that period of time. So I can't remember the first season, 2007, 2008, but I know that I was rank.
Liverpool, Chelsea and Arsenal were generally pretty good at that time.
I've never had a rank with 1 million in front of it. That's what I will say, despite playing with that, which I was quite impressed at. So I was a 400k in the first season. Then I was 100k, 190k, 140k, 70k. Now, I think these are pretty good efforts without any of these
considering
teams.
Your rules. Yeah.
But there were certain things that just blew me out of the water, and I could do so little about it. So I remember some of the seasons. So I remember that I see the big ranks and I'm like, what hurt me? So in what year would it have been where it all went wrong? So I thought I could manage this. 13, 14, 578k. It's my second worst season, 578k. What happened that year? Sturridge and Suarez and Gerrard. just absolutely annihilated me. I could do so little about it. Not only did everyone have that, but John Terry and Hazard came into the league as well. So I had no Hazard, no Terry. Like, people remember all the people they're fond of. I'm like, I hated those people so much.
I mean, 500,000 is not a bad rank then, really.
It didn't seem so bad. But then, right, 2014, 2015, it got better because Harry Kane came into existence.
I had in that season, yeah, he was brilliant.
Not only that, but Pep Guardiola came into existence. And it was before Pep, but City came into existence and they signed Aguero and David Silva in 2014, 15. So I was back. I was back. So I was back to around about 100k on that season. That was fine. Well, it was fine. I think 2015, 16, it was similar, about 100k, because we had, because Tottenham were good. 2015, 16, we had Eriksen, Ali, Kane, we had Toby and Jan, all those guys. So I always had those people. That was great. Apart from 2015, 16, I didn't have Vardy and Mahrez because I wasn't having Leicester players, because that was the year they won the league and they were against Tottenham.
So, why did you decide to change that rule?
Salah.
Right.
Poxy Salah did me. So in 2017, 2018, right, Mo Salah had the ridiculous season, turns up, gets 300 points.
30 goal season.
And I was 780k.
Right. You thought, I've got to rethink this.
Yeah, and some big things had happened to me by then. So I should probably so probably my best achievement, 2015, 2016, I was 158k with those rules, and I had cancer.
Oh, okay.
So in October of 2015, I discovered I had a tennis ball sized tumour in my bowel.
Wow.
Pretty savage sized thing. Was really lucky. It was all removed in surgery, but I had then had chemo for 7 months.
That would be quite late stage if it was that big. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. So, really fortunate in an extent. It was what they would call a T4 in its size,
right?
But not stage 4, which is the bit that people worry about. So although it was very big, it hadn't spread at all.
Wow. Okay.
So it was kind of laying dormant in me, and how it sort of came to be was that there was an abscess that had grown almost alongside it, and the abscess started swelling at a huge rate, and the abscess then caused me pain. and they thought I had appendicitis. I was sort of tested for appendicitis. They were looking at things and they thought, oh, it's settled down a bit. I don't think maybe it is appendicitis. And then I got, incredibly lucky in that I had private cover through work. So I had Bupa cover. I rung up. I wasn't using the Bupa cover. I was using NHS at this time. And I thought, I'll just try and see what they do. So I rung up. And I spoke to a secretary at 9:30 on a Friday morning, and she booked me an appointment for the Monday. I thought, bloody hell, that's amazing.
Yeah.
She then called me back half hour later and said, I'd literally found out I had a tumour. Sorry, I should say. I'd found out I had a tumour the day before. So they'd done a CT scan and found I had this tumour. That's when I was like, I should try Bupa. She called me back and said, you sounded quite worried. We can probably slot you in this afternoon if you can get along to Margate Hospital at 2:30. And I was like, yes, I'll go. No bag, nothing, just off we went. The surgeon said, yeah, we'll do. They do a colonoscopy. They normally do all that sort of stuff. We'll put you in that for a few weeks. And then he said, can I have a little feel of your abdomen? And he felt and he went, right, I'm just going to get a marker pen. He said, I can feel it. This is the tumour. It's like tennis ball. And he's like, this is the abscess. It's like this. And he said, and it's so hot, I think you are about to burst. I would not be surprised if this bursts tomorrow. And if it bursts, you'll die.
Bloody hell.
And I was like, So they admitted me immediately. They put me on intravenous antibiotics, and then on the Tuesday they removed it. Wow. And I was incredibly fortunate that it all went in surgery. I was just left with, unfortunately, the abscess, as in the infection in me, which meant some pretty complicated healing and all of that sort of stuff. But after that sort of thing happens, you're like, what's the point in playing a game like FPL if you're going to put weird handcuffs on you?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm either going to play it and try and be good at it with the same rules of everybody else, or I'm not going to bother.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
And now we're here 7 years on, and I've got a podcast with Adam, and we talk about it every day.
Yeah, sure, mate. Yeah. We had Tom on from who got the assist because he had cancer at some point, isn't he? We talked about it. Yeah. Surprising how many young men. You know what I mean? You don't think about it, but it does happen, doesn't it? Like even. I say it happens. I say young. We're young for that sort of thing, aren't we? Like,
well, probably the difference with almost mine in that sense is that I had what they were classed as an old man's cancer. Do you know what I mean? Is that so when once I had my CT scan and they found there was a mass, they were like, you're too young to have bowel cancer. It's very unlikely that's what that will be. It'll probably be something else. And it was like, no, that's what it is.
That's what it is.
But that kind of kicked up the arse of better get good at this FPL stuff.
So we'll move on a bit later. Move into your content creation experience. So, I'll say for people who are watching, I have had Adam on before. So I'm going to put myself in a situation where I almost know nothing. Because I'm assuming people watching this may not have watched that and may not know the history above average FPL. And as I said before we started recording, mate, it's often quite interesting because I've interviewed Az and Mark now of Black Books. I've interviewed Tom and FPL Pricey Sam, and quite often you get quite different stories. So I think it still is quite, you know what I mean? You can get like quite different reflections. So how did you meet Adam? When did you guys first meet? Like,
So I definitely think it was, I don't know if it was pre the cancer or during chemo, but it was one of the two. So all I know really is that during that time, I had like
8 or 9 years then, something like that.
Yeah. So like 2015, 2016 definitely would be around that time. But I had a lot of time on my hands, effectively. And part of the strange thing that I had with the chemo was that the chemo treatment I had was every 3 weeks, and for a week of that I was completely allergic to the cold.
Really?
Which meant I couldn't leave the house. Not only could I not leave the house, I couldn't have drinks that were less than room temperature. I couldn't. There's a lot of. You'd be amazed at how many things are cold that you can't hold.
Is that a normal reaction to chemo? Just out of interest.
No, I think what I do think is the drugs are very wide and varied. But the one that I had was what it made you was that you couldn't stand it to an extent. It felt strangely like in your throat, like you had spider's webs. If you breathed cold air, everything would close up. It was horrific. So things like your phone and so forth, I would mainly use a tablet rather than that. But you need to have the silicone cases. You can't have the hard cases. But the backs of a tablet or phone were just genuinely like
really sensitive,
horrible.
Really sensitive then.
Yeah. There's lots of other stuff like trying to flush the toilet. You got to use like a bit of paper to press the button and stuff like that, and do all sorts of stuff. Like it's, there was all sorts of weird stuff where you're like, I didn't realise that was cold. You can't prepare food because you can't go in the fridge. You know what I mean? There's all sorts of stuff. It's mad. So I'd spend literally most of it just laying on the sofa, watching telly or playing on iPad, and we were playing a mobile game, the good old Clash of Clans, popular mobile game, and I joined a Tottenham clan because what do? Try and find a UK clan, try and find a Tottenham clan, do all this thing. So found all these fellow Tottenham fans. One of my good friends, John, also played it. So it was me and John was friends, and then Adam was in this Tottenham clan. Me and Adam were. Adam's one of the most competitive people I know.
Make a bit of a joke, Baker. Did you start the group by saying my great granddad invented Tottenham's?
Yeah, you want to do that, don't you? You want to just drop there. By the way, we started Tottenham, our family. Yeah. The funny thing about that always is that I always say to this is, I've never done the old family tree stuff, so I have to try and trust that how many generations before this story goes awry. Yeah. So someone might watch this now and go, I've traced this out, and Baker's not actually. It was actually his, but it's definitely in the family. It's definitely in the family. Is what it is. So you go where you are. But Adam is incredibly competitive, the most competitive man I know. Whereas I'm the least competitive person on earth. But what I do like to do is anything I do, I just take it seriously. I would say like I have lots of pride in most stuff that I do, but I'm not sort of competitive.
That's not what I got from my interview with him, but see what I mean? It's interesting to get. I mean, about you more so.
Yeah, I'm not. So I don't like. I'm not bothered about how good somebody else does or how good they are.
You've got your own.
I'm just more interested in. I'm more interested in my own. How good can I do at the right stuff? But we both took this game way more seriously than our top guys that were just in a clan because they were Tottenham. And so we then was like
playing FPL together as well.
We were all playing FPL and all that stuff all the time. But we then started doing some more of the esports type world, which then meant you'd do like Discord channels, you'd hang out, you'd be like sitting around chatting all the time. So you'd start voice chatting, not just typing on a screen, as it were. So we got used to chatting to each other. Then you all get your WhatsApp numbers, and you're all then suddenly in a little group, and you're just mates, effectively after a little while. Some of them that were local, we'd go to games together and do the stuff. But Adam was in Malaysia, so couldn't do that with Adam at the time. Then Adam moved to Aberdeen, so still couldn't go to Tottenham very often. We went occasionally if he was around, but we could at least chat in the same time zone. Yeah. That was handy from being like 7-8 hours difference. So then during COVID, we all the same guys, we were like, we're all bored. We're all just at home, we can't do much. But once football started, it was every night, wasn't it? It was on. There was a stream game every single night. Yeah. And we just basically would just chuck out in the chat, Zoom beers. That's all we would say. Zoom beers. Do you want to have a bit? And if people are around, Adam would literally set a Zoom call up at kickoff. And if people joined, we'd time all our tablets like up together or whatever devices we were watching it on, you know, so that nobody was like more than a second ahead or anything like that. And then have a beer, watch the football. And we loved it. We loved it. It was really good for just in general, mental health, just enjoyment.
Yeah, me and my mates did that. We had like a Saturday night down the pub and we'd all just sit around in front of the computer having a beer, basically. Yeah,
it almost accelerated these friendships that we had. These already online friendships became more accelerated. Strangely, I felt like it was easier to do that than it was to do with my mates that I would normally have gone to the pub with. It seemed more normal to do a virtual type thing. We got more into FPL during that period of time. And then I started a Twitter account in FPL without him knowing it.
Okay.
Because I figured it was a good way to get better at FPL. So I think James might have had something to do with that. So from Planet FPL. Okay. Because I had a personal Twitter account and somebody retweeted. There was a guy called Neil Murray, Ronaldinho was his handle, and he did a thread in 2019 about Ricardo Pereira, and somebody about him being the best player to own from here on in. It was like a January 2019, and I was like, and it got retweeted onto my personal thing, and I was like, what's this? Don't know what this is. And then I read it, I was like, wow, there's people talking about FPL. I didn't know this existed. I didn't know people talked about FPL like this in different ways of doing it, strategically, of how they're playing it. This is interesting. So I remember being on Twitter and I was like, I'm going to search FPL. And I was like, there's loads of accounts. I remember seeing this guy called FPL General and thinking, who's he? He seems quite interesting. He seems to know what he's doing.
Were you aware of FF Scout and stuff like that? Or?
No.
Oh, right, okay.
Zero idea that there was any community in FPL at all in 2019. Right. Zero idea that people took it seriously. I just thought everyone was like me and just, don't pick players
bloody elder people take it seriously, mate.
I had no idea until I saw that thread that this actually existed. And then I was like, I'm gonna create a Twitter account. I'm gonna create a Twitter account for FPL. I saw there was some, so I did. Followed these guys, and I think I did very shortly after it. I did like a captaincy thread myself. It was pretty much did it in exactly the same format that Neil had done it for his stuff.
Sorry, mate,
but it got
I'm still really new to Twitter X. I only set it up when I set up this account. Is a thread like a poll or something?
So like about a 12-page tweet. Do you know what I mean?
Wow,
like it's 1 out of 12, then the next, then the next.
Yeah, okay.
It's basically like an essay in Twitter form.
Yeah,
like you write it and then press plus and then do it again, then do another one. Nobody does them anymore. Nobody can be asked. But a few years back, everyone loved a thread.
Yeah.
So much so that what you'd do is if you did your first tweet at the start of it, you'd put like capital letters, Fred. And everyone would be like, here's a Fred. I did that one on captaincy and it got like a few hundred likes and I was like, what is this world, this thirsty world of people that are nerds like me?
That's a lot, isn't it? Especially if your name wasn't known. Like...
Didn't know anyone, but I've gained a few hundred followers from that and stuff. And then somehow I ended up playing a different game called Footstock. And I ended up in some kind of group chat. And this game, Footstock, it had like these tournaments. And I won a tournament. And I won like 600 quid. for like I don't know, it was like about a £5 entry or something like that, and I won
one
like
of these
600 quid.
Fantasy football with money, basically.
And Adam at the time played that Football Index thing. He was big in that stuff.
Yeah,
I wasn't doing that. But he knew I was playing Footstock, but he didn't know I had an FPL account. So he was playing Footstock too, and I was playing Footstock. And when I won, Holly Shand tweets, one of our owns won the Footstock tournament. And Adam followed Holly Shand.
Right.
And he tweets Holly, that wasn't the Baker and FPL account. That was one of my mates called Baker. And I was rumbled. Because then he realised. And for about 3 or 4 seasons prior to this happening, he'd beat me every season.
Yeah.
But he hadn't beat me this season that this was going on. And he was fuming about the fact that he wasn't beating me, whilst I was sniggering a little that I had this little FPL account, getting all the information off Twitter and so forth.
He said to me, he's not beaten you since you started the channel either, is he?
And then hasn't. But because then we were doing, I once you had Twitter and we were chatting and we were doing this stuff, it was like, we just, it is natural with me and Adam, with whatever we've done, is let's see how far we can take it.
Yeah. So to move us on a bit, when did the idea of creating above average FPL, when did that come about?
Honestly, it was just like, I think I messaged him, why don't we just do a podcast? And he went, okay. And it was like literally the summer after that. So I think it was the 1920 season. It might have even been the 2021 season, but whatever the start of that season was, it was like, yeah, let's just do a podcast.
And what sorry.
So it was audio only. We had virtually no followers.
He said to me, you started by putting on Spotify before YouTube. Is that right?
Yeah, 2 years at least before we did that. So we'd have it on Spotify. We would do it like once a week. That was for all that time. It was once a week. It was only ever once a week. And yeah, I think first season, I think the most views or most listens we had in the first season was like 100 or something like that. I remember us being really excited when we had 100 downloads, on one episode. Like, yes, 100 downloads, cool.
I always say,
and then
me and FPL Nightmare always say to each other, particularly when we were starting out, like he said to me, he waits till he gets to 100 views on YouTube, and as soon as he's at 100, he's like, he can relax. He's like, that's his that's his goal,
It's definitely one I'd say is when if I was looking back and talking to backwards me, and about the future type thing past me, I would say don't look at the numbers. Just don't look at them. Bloody
difficult not to.
It's bloody difficult not to, but they can really put you off. They can really disengage you from what you're doing, and we just enjoyed ourselves. I've listened back to like some of those early episodes, and we enjoyed ourselves then, and we enjoy ourselves now. Like, and I don't think it's that hugely different. So therefore, the numbers weren't really determining the quality of what you were doing. There's some really good pods out there, I think, that don't get the numbers that and people would say things like you don't get the numbers you deserve. It's just, sometimes it's just the exposure you've got. Is the YouTube bit, how do we go from like pod to YouTube? Interestingly, so Pricey, who you've had on, he started doing videos for a channel called Playmaker, who was that person I mentioned earlier, Neil Murray. He started a company called Playmaker, which was
he said
an app.
He worked for him for a while, didn't he, I think?
Worked for him for a while. And he was producing videos very similar to the quality he's doing now.
Yeah.
And I remember watching his videos and being like, this is incredibly good content. He presents it well, the graphics are incredible, and he's getting about 100 views a week. And I'm like, what's the point? because there's very little that stops anyone from just getting a mic out and talking.
Well, I mean, he's like he can edit professionally and do all that stuff as well, can't he?
He was, but sitting having a chat, having a beer is pretty easy. Once you start doing the graphics, starting doing all that stuff, starting to do all the work, it's a lot more to put in. And if you're not getting anything out, I was like, but what's the point? And I remember watching his channel and thinking, I can't believe he puts in this amount of work and how good this is and how little gets back from it. Yeah. And Adam said about Adam was very much a visual content person, is he still is. He's very much YouTube, doesn't listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I watch a fair bit of YouTube as well, but not very much fantasy football YouTube. I'll tend to watch more things. I watch a lot of golf YouTube, things like that. He very much wanted the YouTube, and I was like, dude, should we? Like, look how much work it is to do that. And Adam was like, I'm going to learn it, and we're going to do it almost. And I was like, cool, let's do it. So I would say I probably had the idea to start a podcast in general, but we never would have done YouTube without Adam wanting us to have that as an extra thing for us.
Yeah,
I'm really glad we do now.
I think without taking anything away from yourself or me, because I do similar type of content, at least with doing a podcast, it's just two guys chatting. Like, if you've got to do something like Pricey does, those daily videos you're doing, really, really over the top graphics, and stuff like that. But
yeah.
So, what were those early experiences like? And I mean, we've kind of covered it a bit. And how have they changed sort of over the? I mean, so I guess you're 5-6 years in now.
I think the thing that really helped us the most was we moved to do a Sunday pod.
Yeah.
So when we initially did it, it would come out maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, it just come out once a week. It wasn't necessarily a fixed time. And then we decided we wanted to do Sundays because there wasn't a lot of Sunday content. As well, it was like, we see the analysis that happens on Match of the Day. We don't think it's that great. We think we can probably do better. The better you can do that, the fresher to be. This is the place to do it. That was effectively the premise of what we wanted to do.
Just out of interest, why do you think it's not great on Match of the Day? Do you think it's just they don't have time or to cover stuff? Or?
I think it's not too bad now, but 5 years ago, I didn't used to think it was. I think it's miles better now than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty good now. But 5 years ago, you'd never have seen any expected stats. You never would have seen any tactical work. It would be more like that team wanted it more than that team, and that's about it. Like, it was cliche and all that stuff. You don't see that now. Like Match of the Days come on, huge amounts. I think, Monday Night Football on Sky has made a big difference, to how punditry works in general, and the amount of analysis that goes on, the use of getting managers into studios and ex-players into it.
Without going too much of a tangent, I think social media has as well, because I think when they see that people who are not like you and Baker or the football websites are doing it, it then makes them pull their socks up and think we can't just have Paul Merson giving a
exactly.
You know what I mean? Just like Paul Merson off too much, but
but there's 4 or 5 people sitting feeding that stuff to those guys as well. Don't underestimate the amount of analysts that work for that. Just like a manager in football, isn't it? Is manager in football isn't really watching 50 games a week and do all that stuff, but they're paying guys to do it who then are really good, who can talk to them in a really intelligent way for 10-15 minutes and be like, here you go, this is how this team plays and this is their style. And it's similar in punditry now, is what those organisations have done is get good analysts in to work for them and help the presenters to be able to tell you the stuff.
That's made the difference, yeah.
That's made the difference.
You're saying the Sunday pod, was a
Sunday pod was a catalyst for it. But what it then meant was, when we came up with that idea, it sounded easy, but then it was like, to get to Sunday and be able to talk about every single game of the weekend. One is, how do we watch every game? How do we get the stats that we want to from every game to be able to talk about those games? How do we get the tactical stuff to do with those games? So what me and Adam became was, I think we became incredibly better at processing information, having really good sources, knowing where all the good sources are to get the stuff that helps us have that conversation.
Can you get that stuff off Fantasy Football Scout? Well, probably Fantasy Football Hub as well, like the expecteds and all that sort of stuff.
You can get some. There's definitely some stuff that you can get, but it's just numbers. I would say a lot of the time. Like
no context.
I think we use a lot more football stuff. So there's some really good accounts that will show good pass maps, some good structural stuff about how teams are set up, some sites that are more football-y, I'd say, than the Fantasy Football Scout, which is really ultimately this is only going to show you the metrics that are going to result in points type stuff. But we're interested in a bit more whole of what can we do, to get this, where you can get highlights from if you haven't watched it, how you can watch as many games as possible during that period.
All perfectly legal, of course.
All perfectly legal, of course. So that we can get to a position where by Sunday night we can talk about these games. And that was the challenge, but by almost like trying to conquer that challenge, we then realised we've got better.
So is your aim by Sunday night then to have watched every game? Bloody hell, yeah. I mean, I know when I asked Adam about the negatives, he said sometimes getting like all the information together for the pod. I didn't realise you went into quite that much.
Yeah. So Adam's got to obviously build all the scenes. So Adam can't watch as much as I can, purely based off of. So I've got to watch. I've got for me to sort of like offer something, I've got to watch more. So we'll have some times where it'll be like, I'll talk more than Adam, and people are like, well, he's talking more, and it's like, well, there's only so much the man can do. He's got to build the scenes, he's got to navigate the scenes, he's managing the stream, he's looking at the quality of what we're doing all that stuff. I have to do that part, but what I think works really well for us is that we're constantly thinking, how can we benefit each other?
Yeah, I'll just say as well, like I've said this before a couple of times on it. Like I've started live stream, I've only done 4, but it's a lot bloody more complicated for the person.
So complicated.
Than I was amazed last night. I did one with Steve of Elite FPL, and I clicked the button and it actually worked first time. And I was like, it didn't matter what happened for the rest of the stream. Then I was happy it actually just working.
He's a magician. Like, don't underestimate how hard it is to do it. If you want, and is that for everybody, it's like the more you increase the degrees of difficulty, so doing it Sunday night is added difficulty because he's got to find time at some point to build some of these things. We've had some really good help. So Sertalp, who does the FPL Optimised pod, he built us our XG tracker plot things that we share on the screen, which really help frame the conversation of what we've got. But we also get like all the data that sits behind it, so we know what every dot in the line is. He built us that for free. He will not take money from us for it, and we get that within 20 minutes of every game finishing, which enables us to be able to go. Because when we first started doing it, Opta used to publish those things on their Twitter account. So we used to take them on the Opta account, put them on the stream, and then we were there. But we were desperately like refreshing Twitter, hoping that they would post them on time. Then they started cutting it down, so they now only showed certain games and started doing that, and you were like, we're stuffed. This whole thing was
charged for it now or something.
Yeah. So I did always think that we would have to lose our independence to continue doing what we were doing, i.e. that we would have to be a hub pod or be a scout pod effectively, who have Opta contracts and so forth, so might be able to get us what we needed, but we haven't had to do that, which we really love. The fact that we're an independent pod, that we're not associated to
you do have
somebody else.
I mean, Adam spoke about him. You do sort of have a sponsor, don't you? Crypto Block.
Yeah, we have a sponsor, Crypto Dan, very much so. Yeah, Dan. And Dan's a mate of us from those times. So Dan played Clash of Clans with us in 2015, and we just kept mates, But he's made a lot of money in crypto.
Is he a millionaire? Adam said he was a.
Look, I don't know how much money Dan has.
It's up, but it's up.
Yeah.
I shouldn't really be asking about another man's financial status. So it should.
Yeah, it's up. I imagine it's up there. Yeah.
He's been a big help. Yeah. He's been a big help to you lads, though. It sounds like
massive help with us. So, in that, we can afford to get the best camera, get the best microphone. If we need some subscriptions to certain things that give us that more data and more richness to what we're doing, he's been incredibly useful. We wouldn't be able to do that without him.
Yeah, just needs to build a better internet connection to Aberdeen.
Problem is I mean, that's what we actually do need Crypto Dan to do, is to start paying for investment in the internet in Aberdeen.
So let me just go to my script. We're kind of covering things a bit out of order here, but that's fine. So I think we've covered those. What would you? So next question I'd ask is, what would you say are the positives of being an FPL content creator? And I'm imagining some of it for you might be to do. I know you're very involved with the FPL community and you organise golf days and stuff. But I'll just ask a question. What are the positives for you?
Friends. Just 100% friends. I talked to Adam as we would anyway, but we'd do that anyway. So whether we podded or not, we'd still have those conversations. I'm 100% sure of it. But the friends that I have, we all talk to, like, any of your like normal real life mates that you had pre-FPL, there's no way you'd find enough stuff interesting to talk to them about as much as you can do about FPL. Yes. like it creates so much conversation, but also we're all so similar, and from that it's created so many really, really good close friends, and even some of those friends are born out of like play styles of things that we're like so
in FPL.
I firmly believe there's like FPL dating of how well we would become good friends and that. So two guys I would say that I maybe might not play as much like them now, but I definitely used to play a lot more like them, and that's probably how we became friends. So Zoff, who does the Wire, me and him think very similar all the time. And guess what?
Not they didn't choose Chelsea, Liverpool. I'm joking.
Oh no, because he's serious. He's serious, man. The man's serious. What he's doing. But not only do we see things often and think the same moves and look at and have the same views on a lot of stuff, guess what? We like all the same films. We like all the same TV series. I can almost bet that if there's a film I like, he'll like. Music, we have similar tastes. That you can kind of name the tastes of which we'll be involved in. And how did I sort of know it? Well, FPL Review, they do a thing called Season Review, and under it you've got like the doppelgangers to an extent. Well, Zoff was always on my doppelganger list, and I was like, what? That's weird. And then we talked about it, and it was like...
So that came up for me a couple months ago, and I had no idea what it meant, and I put it on Twitter. It means like they make the same move. They've made the same moves.
Very similar moves.
And yeah.
So that was happening before we were friends.
Right.
So think of that of like the Tinder of me and Zoff was. It was telling us that us two would match, and it turns out we match.
And much more using much more analytics than I'm sure Tinder does.
I would talk to Zoff, and I have talked to Zoff every single day for 5 years probably.
Yeah, I've only been on it. I've only been doing this for 6 months. I mean, less than 6 months. But I talk to Steve-O and FPL Nightmare Andrew almost every day, just because we're very similar people. Born at similar times, they're beyond FPL. All into wrestling.
This is what I'm saying. It creates friends. Yeah. It creates friends. You turn out, stuff. We've got people in our little Discord and stuff like that where it's like, it turns out we were in the same crowds, we were the same age, we were doing similar things in different places, So we've got guys in there who were like going into the same type of music, going to the similar sort of places, doing the same kind of things, but maybe 100, 200, 300 miles apart from each other, but we're doing the same things at the same part of our lives and still are thinking the same things, and guess what, we get along really well. One that's more like would be almost a faceless to a lot of people knows off is but FPL Rockstar,
the guy who used to put up the Liverpool team news,
guy with the leaks up.
Yeah.
So Rockstar was on my I was on his doppelgangers, I think it was.
Right.
And he messaged me and said, "Well, you're always on my doppelgangers. what the deal is this is?" And but we started chatting, and then we ended up on Wildcard at the same time. Me and a few others that people would know, but I'll just mention Rockstar for that. But we happened to be on Wildcard at the same time, so it was like we chat through Wildcard. Set up a little group chat. We've been in that group chat now, again, 3-4 years, non-stop conversation, is of people. And you're like, they're the friends, they're the ones that, I've got a 6-year-old boy, and like when he has his first day of school, I'll send pictures to them of his first day at school. When he does something good at school and stuff like that, I'll send it to them and do like that, is... Late risers probably more interested in my son Eddie than any other man I know. Like if I go a few days and I don't send a picture to late riser of Eddie, he is like, where is my Eddie content?
I just thought I'd say to anyone who's maybe not been playing FPL for that long, FPL Rockstar used to, we don't get it anymore, did he? He literally used to post the Liverpool starting lineup about an hour before the deadline, and if I'm correct, it was always 100% accurate, or near as damn it, wasn't it? It was literally...
No, it was 100% accurate.
We literally got the Liverpool starting lineup every game, didn't we? Which
yes, we did.
Wouldn't happen now,
you could get any lineup. Any lineup. As long as it was the first... Yeah, as long as it was the first game of the game week, he would give you the lineup, yeah.
Any other positive before I ask you about the...
What more do we need? Friends, do you know what I mean? Like,
okay.
it is...
What about the negatives, if there are any?
It's a horrendous game that tends to just be a cruel mistress and destroy us all in the regular.
I meant from a content creation point of view, but is it doing badly at FPL, I guess, stems into the content creation point of view, because then you've got to go on...
Yeah... I don't know. I definitely think because we're sort of like independent and sort of what I would class as organic, in that we didn't, have loads of followers and then start a pod, or we weren't like on a channel of somebody else's, we're our own stuff. We're only ever likely to attract people that are in it with us and like us.
Yeah.
Otherwise they won't bother. So I do think that in general we receive, a lot of positive words from the community. We will respond to virtual comments. We'll talk to all comments, and where we can in the chat, and we have say our Discord and all the rest of it. And I just feel like all of those things mean that we don't tend to get a lot of negativity, which I love.
Yeah, I didn't think
obviously, I feel sometimes if you're on, for example, some of the scout guys, I've seen guys that come on and done something new, or they've replaced someone that was on before, and when they come on, the chat can be wild with stuff of, don't get that guy off, he's rubbish. Do you know what I mean? Or he's having a bad season, get him off. Get rid of him and stuff like that.
FPL has had lots of stick. He came on quite a while ago for an interview. He's had lots of stick this season, hasn't he? On Twitter.
And he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And I think Andy is so undervalued as a content creator, hugely undervalued as a content creator. Andy came on ours from the very early start, but and has been on multiple times. But I can't think that anyone who's ever had Andy on stream didn't feel like they'd had a better time, because he does. He makes everything better. Like, he's just a lovely guy.
And to actually successfully take over the Scoutcast after,
exactly.
Joe and so many other people.
It's a historic, old program. It's way before my time. I don't, it's before me. But honestly, there's nothing that Andy does where I would say, I've just happily watched anything that Andy's on.
100%, yeah. So I like to think there might be some newer, or people who are either new to making FPL content, or are thinking about maybe doing it next season. What advice would you give to anyone wanting to start out?
you just got to do it. Like, it is friends of ours, good friends of ours for a long time, FPL Richie and Danny, who do the pod now.
Hoping to get him on soon.
Incredible, lovely guy. Also, one of my old doppelgangers. So right. Him's off. So we became friends because, again, doppelganger. I was like, who's because on his actual name it says FPL Richie in brackets. So I was like, oh, I know who that is.
And he does, because me and him have been conversing quite a bit. He does. I don't know if you can remind me the name, Baker. They've started doing a podcast recently, haven't they?
The Last Resort. FPL Last Resort.
So do check them out.
So they've started it. They've started, this season
with Danny
as guys right? With Danny.
Yeah.
And they could have been doing it years ago. And probably should have been.
He said to me, everyone, I mean, as I said, I'm still very new to the FPL community in terms of being an active part of it, but he says everyone basically comes to listen to Danny. I don't know if that's true.
Richie is very... He should be more proud of the good stuff he comes up with. He's great. He's a very humble man.
Yeah.
He's a very humble man. But he's great. He's great. And they just done it a long time ago, and now I'm really glad they now do. But you just have to start pressing record because you're unlikely to be great at it straight away. I guess that's definitely it. You're unlikely to probably ever be happy with what you're doing. Like, I don't think we'll ever be like, oh my God, yes, we've cracked it now. But we enjoyed it then, and we enjoy it now.
Yeah. I'd say 100%. I mean, I literally started this channel because I was bored one night and just decided to make a video. But and that's simple, can't it?
Of course, you would be over the moon if you had 5,000 followers join you tomorrow or something like that. But you'd enjoy it as much, hopefully, each week now as you would then. And so therefore, it is.
Exactly, I do it because I enjoy it, not any other reason.
And if you enjoy it, people will feed off it, won't they? Surely, eventually.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of. So I'm going to ask you the same questions I asked Adam here. A couple of specific questions about above average FPL. So the first one, and I know that Adam told me this is where your viewers started to massively increase, and it's my favourite piece of content you do. I mean, I have been listening. I won't pretend I listen to you every single week, but I have been listening to you pretty much since you started, and it is my favourite thing as well. Is the bonus points podcast? The bonus points episode you do every year, where basically you go into real depth about the bonus points. So I was just wondering. I know Adam told me that was sort of your idea, but I was just wondering if you could tell me what. What was going through your mind with that, and maybe you could just say what effect it had on the channel.
Yeah. I mean, I'm quite a thirsty nerd. I like to find out stuff, but I'm also terrible at doing creation of any of that kind. And almost deliberately try to be terrible of that. I like to use so anything that. What I mean by is that I deliberately try not to learn how to do functions in Excel, for example, even like the most basics of stuff, because the more I'm able to do, the more I would just keep looking at stuff and doing stuff. But I always feel like the more manually or more oversight of those things you look at, the more it's easier to get stories from it or learn from those type of things. So I continuously, so it probably goes back to cancer time here, so we'll play back to that time. So when you have cancer or something like that, some people will say, what's your life experience like? Do you become like this? I'm going to free as a bird and do all those type of things. I became incredibly pragmatic and very much be sort of one that would be like, I want to know shit. And I want to understand stuff. So my thing that I got to understand very quickly was how to read bloods. So I was like, they come in round every day and they're taking blood for me for like 28 days. I was in hospital. And what I want to know is what the hell are they looking at when they keep checking my bloods? So they'd give me my bloods and I'd say, can I have a look at the bloods? And it would have all your different levels of different stuff. And I would want to know what's good or bad. So I'd do some Googling. I'd ask my surgeon and like ask all the people around it.
They take your blood like injection.
They're checking your blood because they were checking like inflammation levels in particular and any kind of adverse markers, iron levels, which my iron levels were drastically low, and they wanted to get iron levels up and inflammation levels low. They were the kind of key things. So I was like, I then became somebody that would like face into those things immediately, and be very like quite matter of fact about it. That I wouldn't be like, oh my God, or although my temperament, I realised. And my confidence, would be gaining by knowing information.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, I'm a psychologist, but it does help, doesn't it? Particularly from when something, if you know what you're looking at rather than not knowing, it gives you a sort of certainty, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I have a first to try and get to that information, understand all those ones. Yeah. I'm sure I know you'd like to do a mental health, so I'll talk a bit more probably about that then in terms of how does that mean I react to game weeks and all the like. But in terms of the bonus point system type stuff is I'd look at the game, I'd go into the app. I've always been an app user because, I'm newish effectively to the game in terms of playing it seriously, so I don't do anything desktop.
I can't stand the app. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, but it's because you're old school. Like anyone that's old school, like I'm old in age, but I'm sort of young in terms of how I do it. I use the app. Like I've only ever used the app, and also think of the cancer stuff and all that stuff is I couldn't use a lot of stuff. It was just app. So I'm all tablet. I'm all phone, which also means I can't do any kind of like analytical stuff because it's all on a tablet or on a phone. But I would go in the app, I would check it, I'd see my things, and I'd see at the bottom some scores. And I'd be like, well, I'd just keep seeing them. And I'd be like, I don't really understand what these scores are, but when they're good, I get points, and when they're not. And that's the bonus scores.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, I want to invest some more time into my things in this of what's good, what's bad, what do I need to know. When I'd see like big numbers, so you'd learn the metrics and learn the stuff, and then you'd find places like Hub and Scout would give you bigger breakdowns on what was going into them. And I was like, it's quite interesting. I'm not sure a lot of people have much of a clue about that. No. I think my understanding was Mark Southerns was probably the expert on it, and probably still is the expert because he's Mark Southerns. But he knew a fair bit about it, but I don't think he was producing content at the time when we started doing stuff about that. I think that's when he was on his time, wouldn't it? Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to start trying to work through these things of BPS. I'm going to try and work through. I'm going to look at it team by team and try and plot it into something that makes it there.
Did he say what you go on then, you nutter or something?
Go on then. But he hated what the end result of this was, because what I did was copy and pasted using Google Sheets on my iPad all of that original data. So have you ever watched the first one that we ever did of it? That is all manually done through me looking it up and then like individually putting in every single player and do this stuff. It was insane.
So is that so you can present it on screen?
So just so I could try and work it out. So I could try and work out what the story was. I try and find this into a way that enabled me to tell some kind of story of it. So I did all this, and then I went to Adam with it. Adam's really good at all that stuff. Like when he saw these Google Sheets that I had, I think he vomited. I think it was the first thing he did. And then he was like, well, this is pretty good actually. But because I'd sort of like manually worked through every single player in the Premier League.
So you're going through. Explain what is that data you're...
So I literally looked at every single player in the Premier League and I sort of mapped them into their teams and so forth and looked at what their baseline bonuses were and any differences and any things. And where it was like interesting, I'd be like, I can look at some other stats and see if I can work out what it is that's causing that and what might do it. So it was like a weird intensive course of torture of a man just sitting looking at these numbers until they kind of made sense. Yeah. And And I was like, well, I don't think people have talked about this in this way now. So now I'm going to try and say, I know I had to just dump it to Adam, this horrible looking spreadsheet or group spreadsheets, and say, Adam, can you try and make this into something that looks okay? And then we'll talk about it. And that's what we did. Now, Adam takes a lot of that off me now. in the what he does is he sources all the data for me, so I don't have to do any of my crappy spreadsheet work. And then I just have to look at it. And then I'll do some digging and do some stuff. So it's a lot quicker to do now than it was back then. But yeah, it was just something that I was like, I can't really. If it's getting me points, I want to know about it. It was just like for me, it was just like my whole blood test. I need to know about something. I'm not just going to say, hey, the hemoglobin's this. I'm like, I need to know why the hemoglobin's this. Like, and what can I do that potentially, or what's the likelihood of what it's going to look like tomorrow.
Mm. So and
that's where it came.
Yeah. So and Adam mentioned to me once you'd done that podcast, it sort of like your numbers spiked up. Like I can't remember. He said 50 to like 250.
Yeah, I think what that did is even not so much numbers, but a little bit more reputation.
Yeah.
Advocacy, definitely advocacy. So the one thing I definitely think is that helped us hugely, more than anything else early on, more than even the BPS stuff, was late riser and general. Okay. So Mark, the general, and late riser Pranel both listened to us when we were on audio. They liked it, and they retweeted it.
Right. Okay.
And I don't think any of it happens without their support.
Really?
Because as much as we would gain for the fact of like some good stuff and stuff like that, two people like that who were, you know, late riser very much at the time, if not still, you know, 100,000 followers or whatever, but like a rock star of the game. And general was just smart. General is like good people. But when good people say this is good, people listen. Yeah, definitely. And when they start saying that we listen to you regularly, they're like, I should probably listen to them regularly. So you gain good advocacy. So I think more than numbers, what we managed to do is gain that more of a reputation in good circles, which then helped us. That, you know, if we tweeted out something and they retweeted it got much more. You used to see it, especially when you've only got small numbers. When you used to see someone like that retweets it.
Yeah, I see it.
You'll see it. So that's the other thing is, right, you need an advocate. Like if you're going to do this new again and you need somebody. But also I think for anyone that is listening to this that has a Twitter account with 10,000, 20,000, 50, we've got people with 50, 60, 100,000, like understand how appreciated it is retweeting.
Yeah, definitely. Although to go against that, Az told me that when he tweets out that Black Box is going live, he'll only get 5 people join on it now. But I don't know if that's maybe because
no, that doesn't do anything, honestly. So I tweet out every time, hour to go, we're going to go live. I tweet out we're going live, and that stuff. That does nothing. It's more
the saying I like this stuff.
I like this. Yeah. I listen to it. It's good.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's not about doing it for free, and it's not about like as in, oh, I've never heard of these people, I'm not planning to listen to it. But I do think like if you listen to something and you like it, or you watch something you like it,
put it out there.
Sharing it's bloody useful.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So a couple of so I'm looking at my script now. Got completely lost in that conversation.
I'm going to open a beer while you work it out.
What did you? So probably the biggest change to the bonus point system happened this season. What do you reckon to that change? And do you think it should go back? I mean, I've had the last few interviews I've done. Well, perhaps not literally the last couple, but over the last 5 or 6, I've had quite a few people complaining to me about the bonus point system and the way it is now. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't think it was right what they did. I don't think there was a good method to the madness. Adam did pull the data for us last week with the view that we might do a BPS pod over the break.
Oh, okay.
And I had a look at it. I looked at it for about 20 minutes and said, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it, actually. I think...
Why?
I just feel like what they've done, effectively, is take away one of the, like, what I would class like the quite romantic intricacy of the game. You know, is where there was lots of lovely little nuances. Whereas now, especially like minus for goals conceded, positive for shooting on target, well, guess what? Like, goal scorers will do really well. like those people with high shot volumes and on target will get loads of bonus, and those players in leaky teams will no longer be bonus magnets. You know, and it's like
it's obvious.
It's become obvious,
right?
But it's also become, in a strange way, quite hard to work through the fun of it. So, if you think about like a defence, what you want to know is when they clean, what's the average baseline of players, as opposed to just in general what the average baseline of players is, because it only now really matters for defenders when they clean, like, because the minus is so big, and therefore it's like, I could tell you that this person's got the most average, but it
doesn't mean as much.
It doesn't mean as much anymore when I look at some of the stuff for it. So I actually think I think they made it, you know, I think I said early on in the season, but it made it like it's almost like the player that gets free bonus is the same one that's going to get the man of the match when you're watching on Sky. And I liked it when it didn't.
Do you have any idea why they changed it? It wasn't like
I think it makes it more obvious. I think actually it creates, I think for the general people, it makes less questions.
You think
the
that's
person
why they did
that scores, yeah, I think it is. I think the person that scores, it's more obvious. Give it to him.
It wasn't
Give him
like
the top bonus.
It wasn't like something people were screaming out for, was it? Like,
no, I don't think any of us requested it.
No, yeah, maybe it is to the more general audience. And the other thing that people, sorry, go on.
I think because like you say, no one clamoured for it. None of us have any idea what they'll do again.
Well, maybe they'll put it back. Who knows?
Maybe they just go further. Maybe they just take them away.
I mean, the other thing that a lot of people have been complaining about is those changes they do when they. I mean, I've got to be honest. I'm not such an obsessed FPL manager. That the change. So, you know, something will happen on. Someone will be on
Sunday night.
Bonus points on a Friday, and then on Sunday they suddenly change to 1 bonus point. I mean I can't understand. I really can't understand that.
No, and the bit I don't mind that as long as they apply the correction throughout. But one of the things that happens there, you see, is that so because there's loads of games happening on a Saturday, not just, and that Opta's scoring isn't just done at Premier League level, it's done at all levels, effectively. Then it takes a bit longer for the corrections to roll through on that, where someone might get something slightly wrong, or there's stats things, but there's corrections that happen to the stats. So what happens is on Sunday, those stats will get corrected, and therefore you then end up with an adjustment because the Opta feed is feeding.
So what are they
feed.
What are they correcting?
So, for example, there was one a few weeks back where it was on a Sunday, and Bumo got done for missing a big chance.
Right.
Yeah. So it went down as a miss big chance, which is -3 on the baseline bonus, but he didn't touch the ball. He was at the the ball hit the post and went back the other way, but it was actually the defender headed it against his own post and went back.
So they go back and look at that.
So Opta will go back and look at it, but not necessarily that day. They'll look at it the next day.
Right.
But because it was like the last game on the Sunday, or maybe it was even a Monday night game. Maybe I think it might have even been a Monday night game. And obviously, like half hour later, points are awarded, game week's closed. I was literally looking at it thinking, do not show that on Sky, that chance that happened really late on. Do not show a replay of that, because if they show it, it'll get corrected immediately. But they didn't. And I tweeted as soon as it went live, because I rewound it on my telly and took a video of it. And I tweeted as soon as after they'd said bonus points confirmed, and said, because I didn't own Bumo in this week, said unlucky. And some people captain Bumo on that week. I was like, unlucky if you own Bumo that week, because he got a big chance missed and he didn't touch it. And then guess what? 10:30 the next morning, it got corrected. But the game week had closed. So he didn't, there was no adjustment.
Right, okay.
It's no adjustment in FPL because they've almost turned off the switch at that point. So basically those Sunday things. So those Sunday things, if your team plays on a Sunday, the correction won't happen probably in time for them to award the bonus.
Yeah,
but
stupid.
If you play on a Saturday, you're subject to corrections. It's silly. Like, it should be fair. If you're going to apply corrections to all 10 games.
Yeah. Or just don't bother, because
Or just don't bother.
Yeah. I mean...
But it should make it better in a way, shouldn't it? If they said this is what we're going to do, is we're going to apply the Opta corrections, and that might make bonus changes up to 48 hours post the game. You'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
But they didn't tell us that. We don't still know that that's what they're doing. We just suddenly see changes and we go, yeah, that's what that is.
It's a bit like VAR for fantasy football, isn't it? It's like you have to wait until... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're like, can I post my team now or not? I'll wait until they say it's confirmed. Well, that was it. This very last game week, wasn't it? Did Bruno touch that first? I had Bruno captain, and it was like, did he touch that first assist or not, or the second assist or not? Sky say no, but Opta left it in.
Okay, so the next question, right? So maybe I shouldn't ask you this one. I'll ask you. I mean, Adam didn't have a particularly interesting answer, but I think the number of subscribers you have on YouTube is criminally low. In the fact you're not at 10,000 yet. Does it frustrate you?
No, it doesn't me. I know it will, Adam. But
that's basically what he said.
It will frustrate him because he'll still look at numbers. I don't say I don't. I think, in realistic terms, we're old. I mean, I'm definitely old. He's not old. We're long form content. Our main pod is niche in that it's not telling people what to do, and it's also it's looking back. Like, very often, if you think about it, anybody who's got a red arrow, do they want to watch our Sunday night pod? Not really.
But you do the one on Friday or Thursday.
Do the one on Thursday. Yeah, we do the one on Thursday. But even then, we can't help it. We will just talk about the football, what we think is going to happen. Like, we can't help ourselves but talk about the football rather than be like, this is the best captain this week, this is the best player this week, this is what you should do this week. Like, we're never going to be those people. And nor do we kind of want to be. Like, it's not us.
Yeah,
there's loads of people that are really good at that, and I'm like, that's what they're good at. We're not good at that. But what we are doing has a limited audience, I think. And therefore there's a limit to the number of subscribers. There's a limit to the number of views that people are going to be interested in it. But what we gain out of that is incredible loyalty. We gain, I think we gain, like I say, really good advocacy in the community that people like us. We've been to things like Fest recently, and it was just fucking just lovely to see people that feel like they know us, and they do know us because we try to be relatively personal. Like I will share whatever you want me to share effectively, because this is we are just blokes. Like we're not here to be presenters in that sense. We both have jobs, families, and all that sort of stuff. So this is for us is fun. We can only do so much because of the restrictions with, as I said, young families and work, and therefore it's like what we have in terms of those numbers. I think we can only do so much. What we can do really well is, I love more than anything the 100 odd people we have in our Discord channel. Most of which, like hardly any of the people that are in our Discord channel, I would say, have more than 1,000 followers maybe on Twitter. They're not big social media guys. They're normal blokes that hopefully like normal blokes like us that are pretending to be content creators, and face the same pains that we do every week in terms of the emotions that we face whilst playing this game and the turmoil we face in trying to make decisions in this game. And I'm more nerdy about it than most of our real life mates or our partners, and therefore we need somebody to vent with. And you're like, yeah, would I rather have 100 of those, or would I rather have 50,000 subscribers? I'll have the 100 of those guys, thanks, because like I say, they're friends, like in that sense. So I sound like a weird old romantic guy in that sense, but I just think we should be. I don't think we should try and be what we're not.
No, okay. And it's interesting you saying that, because I hadn't really thought about it for that before. Because I kind of think, when I think of FPL content, I think of Andy, on 450,000 or whatever he's got. But then when you actually think about podcasts, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think probably the highest is Black Box, maybe FPL Wire, with 30,000, and that's got one's got Praz on it, Late Riser, Zoff. The other's got like The Godfather and Az. So if you think like that, actually if that's like the level that they've got to, getting to 10,000 in that sphere of more long form content is actually a massive achievement, isn't it? I'm just reconfiguring that in my mind.
Yeah, and they started as superstars before they pod.
Yeah.
Before the first episode, they were already like. So when I still remember, like when Mark and Az said they were doing Black Box, and like you heard the theme tune, the lobby tune and stuff like that.
I love that. Like, I love that theme.
Cool. You were like, this is going to be great, because these are big boys in the community. When Late Riser and Zoff said, got Praz on board, you were like, well, this can't go wrong, because these are mates anyway, and mates that are all also incredible guys. And of course it bloody helps if you can say 1k this, 1k that, 1k this, 1k that.
Yeah, like Mark's case, me and Adam, 100 or 25.
Exactly. Like we can't. I've pissed 10 years up the wall not picking certain players. I can say something like, I think I'd have to have a look. I think I'm like in the last, like that Premier Fantasy Tool does like the last 5 years managers or whatever.
Yeah, like
on those ones.
Hall of Fame thing.
Or even on FPL Game Week, if you change it to like last 5 seasons on content creators, I'll try and do it now. So I can work out if I can claim that I'm half decent at this game. If I do past seasons and I manipulate it so that I look good. So if we do, past 5 seasons, I would be 12th, just behind Andy, Let's Talk FPL, with an average rank of 50k over 5 seasons, which is, pretty good.
I'm trying to figure I'm gonna up you. I think I've got 97,033, 150, 3k and 12k. So that would probably average out at about 50k as well, wouldn't it? So we're probably about the same for last.
Yeah, I would like to. I would like to have some really good seasons. Like I continually am between 20 and 50k basically.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah, last season 124k. That was a bad time. Of like 30, 20, 28, 50. Are those ones? So they've been really solid. Really solid.
I'm having a shit season this year, but we can get onto that at the end.
Yeah. But that might be the only other thing that would give us a big bump.
Yeah. Well, it's people like Raptor and Mate and stuff. They all had their great season when they got Focal as well, didn't they? So a couple more questions in this section before we move on to the second section interview. Are you all right for time, by the way, Adam?
God, how long are we doing this already?
We've been going on. I think this is possibly it's getting to us possibly. But are you all right for time?
Yeah, probably half hour.
Half an hour left. Yeah. Okay.
Can we do half hour?
Yeah. I can push through it. I've got good. This is I don't know if it's come out, but this will be the 25th interview. It's actually quite an achievement. I can push this through for half an hour. So how did you come up with the name Above Average FPL? We
actually were... So bear in mind that we are not great FPL players. Our game was, is we just wanted to be just above the average. And so we actually ended up calling it Just Above the Average to start. And then we realised that was a really long title. And then we ended up changed it down to Above Average.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat the joke that I made with Adam for, my long-time listeners. My channel name, if above that, would be slightly above 10 million. Okay, well, this one I always have difficulty. So I always try and guess this one, Baker, before I ask it. I'm going to say yes, because Adam said he had been. Have you ever been recognised out on the street as Baker from Above Average FPL, just by like a random person?
No.
Oh, damn, I've been getting them right recently. Would you like to be?
No, I haven't. No, I have. I have had. So at work, so people have messaged me like on Teams and said, "You came up on my YouTube feed the other day. I didn't know you did this."
I'm dreading it happened to me at some point. Like, obviously it'll be a while before that will ever happen. But my dad said I subscribed on his, just to increase his subscribers. I was on his phone and I subscribed, and he's addicted to YouTube and he always watches it on the TV. It's like you keep bloody appearing on the TV with like people I have no idea who they are.
Yeah,
it makes me laugh like that.
So I have had that. I have had before. I was at a wedding. And my wife volunteered, said, "Oh, he does a podcast and does this stuff." And then this someone said, "Well, what is it?" I said, "A fantasy football." So I play fantasy football, and he was like, "I listen to a few podcasts." I was like, "Who do you listen to?" And he was like, "Above Average FPL," and I was like, "That's me." And you were, "Oh yeah," because so for those who don't know, Baker is my surname. So I wasn't introduced to him as Baker, but he was an audio-only person, and then suddenly it was like, that is the not listen to.
That's interesting because quite like Tom. I think Andy said it to me as well. A few people said it if they've actually been recognised purely from their voice. So obviously,
so he didn't recognise me from voice, and didn't recognise me from this because he was introduced to me by first name, not by Baker.
Yeah. Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the second section of the interview now. Just a reminder, if you're still listening at this point, please like to help get the video out to the masses. Please subscribe to help me get up to 800 subscribers before the channel gets 6 months old. It would really, really mean the world to me if you do this. And if you want to support the channel further, please check out channel memberships. So I know you know roughly the questions that are going to come here, Baker. But so the first one I usually ask is, has FPL ever affected your mood or mental health? Now, I'm realising there's the 25th interview. This is a very difficult question. But then again, maybe it won't be so difficult for you to separate this because you've only become a content creator fairly recently compared to how long you've been playing FPL. But, first of all, maybe as a player, without the content creation bit, and then secondly, like as a content creator, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it definitely never impacted my mental health when I just wasn't picking players from certain teams and stuff, because I was like,
it sounds like you remembered a lot of the. Was that just?
I remembered though.
That was frustration.
Yeah. I guess, and there is part of me. I think there is certain things when you are mental health. So me and Adam talk about this with golf, for example. Is that I'm a golfer that when I'm say hitting a ball into a green, I'm looking all the time at where not to hit it. I remember the bunker here, the bunker there, the time I was in that, time I've gone through the back, the time, all of those type of stuff. Like I do that. So similar on FPL, I'll remember a lot of the bats. Adam is a player that will remember the hole out, remember the birdie, like go for like he's trying to do those things. And I think that plays through to some of us in the way we do FPL is that I am very consistent, but hey, he's had the best finish out of the pair of us. Like, and but he's also had considerably the worst finish, over the last few years of us and it's because he will go for glory, as it were, a lot more times than myself, who will put some more stabilizers around the way that I'll play. I definitely think there's been times over the last maybe 5 or 6 years where, because of other stuff, like cancer, where it's like I don't really want to be stressed about these sort of things, so I tend to then not sweat the small stuff so much. But sometimes what I'll do is also protect myself by almost playing the game sometimes too safe. So I'll be like, well, I'll have a very template team, and then I can't get hurt so much. But that and then I think certainly I've probably over the last couple of years maybe gone the other way, where I'm like, I can be brave about these things, and I'll take a lot of hits, and I'll bring in these flashy players, and I guess what, that hurts too. But
you got win,
but I think the only time where I felt really, really triggered, i.e. to a point where, is it used to like bother me. I can remember a time. that so I think maybe 3 seasons ago, at one point after like game week 27, I was like 800th in the world.
Wow.
And I then had 9 red arrows in a row.
Oh.
And just nothing I did worked. Anything that could go wrong went wrong. I didn't feel like I played any differently at all. In fact, if you used all this sort of like variance things until I was playing better during that period of it going well than when I was, from like an expected point of view, than beforehand, when I was just really jammy for like 27 weeks. But everything went wrong. And obviously you have to turn up every Sunday night and you're like, oh my God, it's just gone from like top 1K to top 2K to top 5K to top 10K. And I ended up going down to about 30K over the period of these 9 weeks. And I think I finished like, it's the one where I finished 22K or 28K. 22K I think I finished in the end. So it's a good season. But that period of just feeling like everything against me every week, I remember there was one time it was on a Sunday, and Sunday afternoon, quite often what I'll do is I'll watch the 4 o'clock game and I'll have it on my iPad, and I'll be giving dinner to my son, and it just like gives my wife a couple of hours off while I'll be watching the football, so I don't mind, but making sure he's okay, and he's happy, I'm happy, and does bits. But I remember there was something that triggered me, and I remember I sort of felt like I was trying to hide it from myself, but I was like sort of like a bit physically like shaking inside, and I was like, what am I doing, mate? This isn't right. And my issue is that I still have that piece where I like to look at everything, like as I said. So I mentioned the blood charts, same stuff. I won't be that sort of person that says, I'm not going to look at my rank for a day, or I'm not going to look at it, I'm going to turn everything off, or I'm going to stay off Twitter or do that stuff. Like I'm not that person. What I did do a couple of years back was I turned off notifications on Twitter. And as you've found out, I don't have them on Blue Sky either. So if people message me, I won't see it.
Yeah,
I'll only see it if I go in to look for it. Because what I did think is, from a mental health perspective, is is that I would be almost addicted to the doom scrolling. And I'd almost look at it more when I was doing badly. Whereas now I'm kind of only going into social media when I've got a purpose to do so. So if I'm looking for some information, or I want to tweet something, or I want to, if there's a couple of group chats or something I want to look at, then I'll go and look at those type of stuff. But that's probably my only sort of limitation that I put on myself, mental health wise, with the FPL game.
What about?
I think the main thing is.
Sorry.
Go on.
I was just gonna say, what about as a content creator? Has that changed anything?
Not really. No. I think it's hugely beneficial that we get it over and done with on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
Like if I had to wait until Monday, Tuesday to talk about how I'd done or something, I'd be like, oh. Whereas, like, there's been times where I've had big red arrows. I chat about it Sunday night, and I feel all better, and it can go away. And not only do I like that for us, but we get those kind of messages all the time from people that have had bad weeks that watch us on a Sunday, hopefully have a bit of fun, hopefully they get a smile out of it, and then say, I was feeling really shit about this, and now I'm okay with it. But yeah, we try to limit as much as we can. So we don't do the stuff like, we try to keep rank off screen as much as possible, because I think that's just shit for everybody. Like, that just drives this terrible, for me, that drives like horrible behaviours where people are like, the rank defines the person you're listening to.
Yeah.
Now,
which is annoying, isn't it?
Like I say, if we were doing really well, that would probably hurt us as a channel because we wouldn't be showing it enough.
Did when you were in the top, you say 800 in Game Week 27, did that increase the views?
No, not really.
I guess you're not like
not really.
Top 100.
We would get it sometimes. We've done. Look, you have to thumbnails and titles. We do Beatty thumbnail, Beatty title, but we don't tend to do the Beatty content. No. So I think like Adam was like second in the world or something ridiculous after about 2 weeks this season or something like that, and so we were like, well, we'll bait that out through the title and bait it out, but we just can't do it in the thing of, oh my god, I'm so good. We have to just be ourselves when it comes to the content. But so we'll do a bit maybe with thumbnails and titles just to try and generate some kind of interest in it, but is we try if possible to try and keep things like rank off screen or talk a lot about those things, because it's crap for us, but it's crap for others.
Yeah, sure. So kind of leading on to that, I mean, I guess you've kind of suggested one of the things is maybe to mute your notifications, but what advice would you give to anyone who is struggling with their mood and mental health for FPL this season?
I think, yeah, my thing for everybody is like, just know yourself. Like, all of my any of my triggers that I have in FPL are triggers that happen outside of FPL too. They're the same deal. Like, is if they're impacting us as people, then they'll probably we probably do the same thing in many other different forms of our life. So understanding them and then working it out, like, I don't think it should ever be like, this is what I do for my mental health for FPL. It should be, this is what I do for my mental health. Because I know some people will say immediately like, well, if it's affecting your mental health, don't play it. And you're like, hold on, that's just not addressing the root cause of why it's affecting your mental health. There's other shit at play here. And actually, in a way, if you can get better at it with FPL, which ultimately is a stress ball win, that's all we get from it. Then you probably
like a miniature version of your mental health, isn't it? If you can
just treat it.
Expand it out.
Yeah, if you treat that microcosm, you'll probably do better in the other stuff too.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. That's really good.
But we are all got levels of it. If we're so serious in FPL, we've definitely all got partial addictive behaviours to ourselves. Yes. And therefore, even if you then walked away from this, you're only going to find something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got a bit of content creation addiction now. Making this, and beforehand it was computer games, so it just passed from one thing on to another, basically.
Yeah, we'll find something else to be stressed about. So like being like, oh, I'm gonna not do. I'm like,
So this is. Sorry, mate, go on.
I just think is, you know, these are good opportunities to invest in yourself, in learn your own behaviours of what you do, and hey, if you can sort of like treat them within the microcosm of FPL, which realistically makes very little, then you'll probably be able to treat them in many other different varieties in your life.
Definitely. So this is a new question that I've already answered, and you already sort of said part of it. The second part of the question is: have you ever made FPL decisions based on your team you support? I think you've already answered that one.
Yeah,
but the other one, and I know what you're going to say here, is what's more important to you, FPL or Tottenham in a game week?
Oh yes, Tottenham. Yeah,
Tottenham.
It is. This is probably the least it's been. This is probably the least it's ever been Tottenham.
What?
But it will still always be Tottenham. Just this season, it's very hard. It feels very hard to have an affinity with the club right now.
Right, okay. Because of Ange, or just because you're doing shit?
In general, yeah. It's been some time now of losses. Like, you know, there's a lot of, you know, discontent towards Levy. There always has been, and then you throw Ange into it, and you're like, I just don't see the good path from it. And it's sadder because we've got so many good, really young players. Like, this should be like the best group of young players we've ever had, but it's an unforgiving league. Like, you can have a lot of good young players and it doesn't ever tend to work out because there'd be more people who just keep buying more and more ready-made talent. And it's difficult. It feels really conflicting at the moment of really good young talent, but which normally you'd think would bring you such a huge feel-good factor. And there are moments where it does. There's been some moments this season where it's been so pleasing to see the likes of Bergvall and Gray and, you know, these young guys. But it's so tempered with stupid loss after stupid loss after stupid loss, giving away goals.
What's happened to... You mentioned Football Manager. I'm a big Football Manager player. What's happened... Do you know there was a guy that was rated really... I think his name was Parrott. He was like...
Troy Parrott, he played against us. He played against us in the last round of the Europa. He's doing really well for AZ. No, AZ Alkmaar. We sold him for like 7 million, but he's doing really well.
Because he was on fantasy. He was like, you know, one of the wonder kids sort of thing.
Yeah, there was lots of stories about that. His attitude wasn't ideal. That he did like to go out a significant amount, and multiple times he'd get loaned out, and that sort of problems he went. So I think getting him out of the country was really good for him. It's
strange how accurate Football Manager is, because I bought Archie Gray in about 2000. They were predicting he was going to be a wonder kid when he was like 15. I know he's not like excelled for you yet, but
mate, he's excelled for a kid who's 18 years old.
So, exactly. So just to finish up, mate, we just have a brief chat about how your season's going. How is your season going?
It's going all right. It's going okay. It's what are we? We just finished game week 29. I'm 65k.
That's good.
I've definitely made a lot of done quite a few stupid stuff this season. I've definitely, you know, in a season where everyone's tried to save and transfers, I've still not got to free transfers at any point this season.
No, I don't think I have either.
Nah.
I basically decided I've done once.
I basically decided I was just going to keep playing like the game hadn't changed. That's what I'll do. But including that, like, I've taken like 6-7 hits when everyone's like, I'm taking no hits and all that stuff, and they're saving them all up. I've taken loads. I've brought in loads of players that I know are stupid, but I still bring them in anyway. I pissed the assistant manager chip up the wall because I thought I don't care for it.
Who did you play on?
Moyes, Emery, Ruud van Nistelrooy.
I mean, to be fair, I'm a big FPL review fan. They had Van Nistelrooy on that game week like the second or third highest predicted manager for that.
It was just, if the game wasn't on Friday night, if I didn't, at the time I was like, game's on Friday night. No one's really enjoying this chip. It's probably going to go. But of course, everyone loved the chip after they got 20 odd points from Glasgow. Everyone says, "Oh no, this chip can stay." Whereas I was like, "This chip's terrible."
I went slot Glasgow, but I still hate the chip, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't respect it. Full stop. That was the problem. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I thought to myself, let's try and make it some fun of doing something that happens on a Friday night and nobody's got him, and if it pays off, I'll remember it forever. But ultimately, I probably would have remembered it more if I'd just gone Glasgow like everybody else.
Maybe. I mean, I think it was ruined a bit this season by the fact everyone played at the same time. I think it could be more interesting if they did it next season, but I want it to go.
Yeah.
Do you want it to go?
I don't mind if it comes or goes. I just like to know about it going into the season.
Yeah, no mystery chip.
Yeah, if it's not mystery, like if it's there, it's it's you want to feel even playing ground.
Yeah.
Whether that be like doubles announced, whether that be like rule changes, whether that be weird chips and stuff like that, or the weird bonus things and all that stuff, you just kind of want to know what the rules of engagement are, and then you'll be like, okay, let's all go battle against it.
Yeah. So I know you said we've got to. I'm thinking we've got about 5 minutes left. So I'll ask you to.
We'll be all right. Although it's just long.
I know, no, that's fine. I love it when they go long.
That's what she said.
Scrolling through I'll ask you. They always say that to me, mate. I might have to cut that out. How important is your? We've kind of touched on it, but I noticed with like different podcasts, there's a different amount of rivalry. So if you watch like Elite FPL, the rivalry between like Jason and Steve-O is central to that. Like with Black Box, slightly less so, but it's still a big deal. Where do you think the rivalry between you and Baker? Because to me, it doesn't quite seem as much when I watch you guys. No.
I guess it's a little bit. It comes down to a little bit that as well. Of we've grown together through this. We've come into the game together through this. And we're an organic channel. We're not superstars landing on these things. So therefore, in my mind, it benefits both of us if both of us do well. So I want us both to do really well. Obviously, I would like myself to do better than Adam, but mainly only if that means that I've done really, really well. I wouldn't be asked about it if I was 3 million and he was 3.5 million. I wouldn't be like, yes, I've won, because it's not there. What I want us to be is maybe not 1 and 2, but you know what I mean. Like if I could be 5k and he was 6k, I'd be like, yes, that'd be the dream. That'd be the dream for us. But I want us both.
Second.
Yeah. The other and Adam will tell it at sort of time, but Adam, because he's competitive about it and stuff, he often doesn't tell me exactly what he's going to do. Right. So even though we'll talk about it on the team selection, we'll rarely talk about it post team selection until most of the time after the deadline. But I'll tell him what I'm going to do. So he knows my move, but I don't know his move.
Why do you send it to him?
Well, I'll just put it on like our Discord, or I'll put it on Twitter and all that stuff before the deadline, so he knows exactly what I've done, or I'll just tell him that's what I'm doing. Because I think that's what you should do with your friends.
It does sound like he's a bit more competitive to you, having spoken to you both now.
Yeah, but I think it's also the fact of just the way he wants to play his own game, and I think the more that he does it his own way, the more it's his own decision, and then he owns it more. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? Is to an extent, I feel like the more that if in his mind, the more he discussed it with others, the more it might dilute his opinion, and then he'd be more pissed off if it didn't work out.
Yeah, no,
so you have to know with your mates sometimes when to give you got to give him his space, and so therefore I'd never text Adam and say, Adam, what's your team? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, mate? What are you gonna do? Like, I wouldn't do that to him, because he'd probably get less enjoyment from the game if that was the case.
Yeah.
But I want him to do really bloody well.
Yeah, he said to me.
So therefore, I can't be in competition with him if I want him to do really bloody well.
He said to me when I interviewed him that neither of you had a top 10k finish yet, and that would be like I don't know if it's a competition or it'd just be nice for one of you to have a top 10k finish.
No, what he really means is that he's finished like dead on 10k. So therefore, is what he's really trying to say there is I've had the best finish. That's actually what he's really trying to say.
Oh no, he said that as well.
Yeah. That's what he really wants everyone to know.
So last question I usually ask Baker is what with a massive FPL expert here, and I mean I would say sometimes I say that in jest, but I'd say you, considering your ranks, especially when you didn't have Chelsea and Liverpool and Arsenal players, are pretty good. What advice would you give to someone just generally in terms of how to have a good FPL season?
Make good friends. That's my feeling on it. Like I know I say it regularly, but I think is it's not about abstaining your decisions, and it's not about groupthink of decisions. Definitely, that's bad for you. But you do have to have good, like anything in life, you do have to have people that you can go talk to about, this is what I'm thinking and why I'm thinking it, and what do you think about that, and can we have a conversation about, or let me at least explain it to you and see whether what I'm saying makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, it's quite difficult that, because the person that's receiving that information hasn't done what I'm going to do the week after, what I'm going to do the week after, what I'm going to do the week after, and all those bits. But having people that you can just sound it off with, and who will occasionally say to you, don't do that, mate. that's why. Really, really handy. Yeah. Now sometimes you'll do it and they'll still say, at least you knew. At least you knew. Do you know what I mean? Like I know when I'm being stupid. When I've messaged the likes of Harry or Praz and said, look, I'm doing this, and they've gone, don't do that. And I'm like, well, I know you wouldn't do that, but let me explain why I want to do that. And they say, look, I don't like it, but I kind of see what you're doing. Then you're like, okay, I've not been completely told off it, I'll do it. Type stuff. But we all know you've got to have a well-rounded set of friends. Like what I'll do is, if I feel I'm doing something really punty, I'll go to my more punty friends with it, right? And if my puntier friends say, I don't like that, mate, then you're like, well, that was definitely wrong.
That,
But what I'm really hoping for is when I go to my punty friends, they say, yeah, I like that, mate. And you're like, yes. I won't go to my safe friends now. I'll just stick with my punty one.
You're basically just backing up your decisions either way. With
Exact. Understand that what you're going into and who you're going into with and why you're going into them with. But having good friends that you can bounce shit off is really important, because this game you're very limited in the number of decisions you can make. So the decisions you make are quite important, and therefore even if you're just listening to people doing what they're doing, you'll pick some shit up. Yeah. We mentioned earlier about the Last Resort guys, and Danny, said that Richie said he always listens to Danny. Danny said something that he said something after I'd fought it, but whilst I was listening to Danny talk about something else. But he then went on to say it like it was almost like, let me just drill this into you. And that was, he started talking about minutes, and he started talking about how important minutes are, and he doesn't think people still get minutes. And where it really resonated with me, one of the things that I dislike as a saying on Twitter is people use, I haven't done a hit, like that is a positive thing with no context. Like there are people that you might have just picked shit players for for 29 game weeks, but you just happen to not hit. I've got mates that haven't done hits, but they also haven't done a transfer all season. Not doing a hit is not a good saying. What is a good saying is I only pick robust players with the minutes that are there, because that enables me to pick stronger paths than everybody else. It allows me more flexibility in terms of what I do. This is my playing style. And one of the benefits of that is that means I regularly get to save transfers, and I very rarely need to have a hit.
Yeah.
That's the long good saying of it. But lots of people will just focus on the small bit, which is I haven't taken a hit. And then other people will copy that and they'll use it as a thing. I want to say this season I didn't use a hit. And you're like, okay, well, what are you going to do to not do that? Well, I just won't press the button twice in a week. You're like, that's not it. So when I'm looking at it and saying, well, what is it that's caused me to take 6-7 hits? It's that I've picked guys like Diaz. Do you know what I mean? And Diaz and the likes. It's I've picked dickheads. Do you know what I mean? All season. And guess what? Eventually they become problems. And I knew there were problems when I went into them, and therefore the chance that I build that hit up, build that bank of transfers up, is lower than the chance that Danny would, because he's really robust in his minutes. The chance that I then, is need to take hits is greater, because I've got problems that occur much, much quicker. And you can get unlucky and get injuries at the same time as doing that. But guess what? Part of robust in minutes is also not picking injury-prone players. I like doing that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like but listening to someone like Danny, who is really good at things like that in minutes, and doesn't just say I don't take a hit, but can tell you exactly what means not taking a hit, helps me reflect a lot easier on my play style and think, okay, I've been a bit stupid here. The issue you have is actually you can only do so much in one season, because you only get one move a week. So if you've got 5-6 shitters in your team that are bad, it'll take maybe the whole season to fix it. Yeah. All you can do is maybe take small steps to get it back, or wait until the next wild card comes along. But yeah, having that good support group and listening to people that speak really well about what their plans are and can help you with, or maybe even see some of the stupid stuff that you're doing and say, maybe that's not the player that you should go for, and it's like, and are invested in you, then that's really important for me. Awesome,
brilliant advice, Beck. And also they can help you with your mental health when your game week goes shit. Or
because they're in your corner, aren't they? Yeah, do you know what I mean? Is you don't feel like you're on your own. Like there is nothing nicer for me than, and some of it's just the crappy stuff, like you'll moan in the group chat and you'll just get like a heart, and it's just nothing, is it? But like an emotion or something, or you'll get a cry, like type thing, or you get something in there that's just really bloody helpful. But when they see it coming, like when they know it, you transfer this guy out and then he's braced, and they immediately message you, mate, sorry mate, fuck.
Okay.
It helps.
Baker, thank you so much for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. And this is gonna, I think if I hadn't have quieted us down, this is gonna be close to the longest interview. We probably could have gone on for another couple of hours.
I'm such a nightmare for this. I'm such a disaster for this.
I love it.
I literally wanted to say before we started, I was like, let's not do more than an hour. No one wants to listen to this in the back end of the season for 2 hours. But I love talking about it. I love talking about football.
I completely disagree. My listeners, at least, love. I mean, Mark Summons and Az are the longest. One went an hour and 50 minutes. I know they are the big guys, but they are the most listened to ones. So,
is there a chance that I've talked longer than Black Box? Because no one goes longer than Black Box.
Well, if you want to talk for another minute and a half, we can get you over.
We're out. Go. Done. Thanks very much. See you later.
Thanks so much for coming on, mate. It's been really fun. Is there anything you wanted to say before we finish?
No, come join us anytime you like. Above Average FPL. Sunday nights, you'll see us if you want to drop in the stream. We will chat to you if you're in it. That's it.
Yeah, and I highly recommend subscribing to Above Average FPL. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got with us to 2 hours 9 minutes now, please do like to help get the video out there. Please subscribe to help me get to up to 800 subscribers. And thank you so much for listening.